Rob Reiner lived a double life for 30 years, and no one knew until now. Not because he was hiding a scandal or living under an alias, but because the world only ever saw half of who he really was. On one side was the familiar, lovable face millions recognized. On the other was a driven, restless force shaping culture, politics, and storytelling in ways most people never connected back to the same man. To an entire generation. Rob Reiner was meathead from All in the Family. He was the easygoing guy with the knit cap, the punchlines, and the working-class charm. Viewers welcomed him into their living rooms week after week, assuming that was the full picture. But while America laughed, Reiner was quietly preparing to step behind the camera and reinvent himself in a way that would change Hollywood forever. When he transitioned from acting to directing, it didn't look like a calculated master plan. It looked accidental. Yet film after film, Reiner delivered classics that didn't just succeed, they defined eras. This is Spinal Tap rewrote comedy. Stand By Me tapped into childhood nostalgia with rare honesty. The Princess Bride became a timeless fairy tale. When Harry Met Sally reshaped romantic comedies. Hinted at a deeper storyteller at work. Here's where the double life truly begins. While audiences saw a gifted director crafting unforgettable films, Reiner was also evolving into something else entirely, a deeply engaged political and social activist. For decades, he poured just as much energy into public policy debates, advocacy, and political organizing as he did into filmmaking. But these two worlds rarely overlapped in the public imagination. To most fans, the man behind beloved movies and the man speaking passionately about politics felt like two separate people. What made this split even more invisible was how deliberately Reiner kept it balanced. He didn't brand himself as a political filmmaker. He didn't turn every movie into a manifesto. Instead, he treated storytelling and activism as parallel lives, each fueled by the same moral compass, but expressed in totally different languages. One spoke through humor, romance, and nostalgia. The other spoke through speeches, articles, and organizing. For nearly 30 years, this dual identity coexisted quietly. Hollywood insiders knew him as a serious thinker who cared deeply about democracy and social responsibility. Audiences knew him as the guy who made them laugh, cry, and believe in happy endings. Rarely did those worlds collide in the public eye. And that's why so few people noticed the full scope of who he is becoming. There's also a more personal layer to this double life. Reiner grew up as the son of comedy legend Carl Reiner, constantly navigating expectations, comparisons, and the pressure to define himself outside his father's shadow. On the surface, success came easily. Underneath, there was a lifelong drive to prove that his voice mattered on its own. Directing gave him that voice. Activism gave it purpose. Only in recent years has this hidden balance become impossible to ignore. As Reiner became more outspoken, people began connecting the dots. The empathy in his films, the focus on human connection, the belief that stories can change how we see each other. They were reflections of the same core belief that culture shapes values, and values shape the world. What's fascinating is that none of this was a reveal in the traditional sense. No shocking confession, no sudden exposure, just time pulling back the curtain. The longer people watched, the clearer it became that Rob Reiner wasn't reinventing himself. He'd been fully formed all along. His story resonates because it mirrors how many people live today, the version the world sees, and the deeper passions that quietly drive us behind the scenes. Rob Reiner's double life wasn't about deception. It was about depth. And now that people are finally seeing both sides, his legacy feels bigger, richer, and far more human than anyone ever realized.